Welcome back. So this probably goes without saying, this course covers Bootstrap 4, which is the latest version of Bootstrap, but it is definitely not the only version, and it's not even the only version that is commonly used today. A lot of people are still using Bootstrap 3. So whether you know Bootstrap 3 or you're completely new to Bootstrap entirely and you don't know anything about Bootstrap 3 or 4, what I want to do in this video is address the main changes, the key differences, the improvements from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4. Now, this won't be the only place in the course where Bootstrap 3 comes up. There will be some other videos where it's necessary to talk about a new thing in Bootstrap 4 by talking about how it used to work in Bootstrap 3. But in this video, I've compiled a list, some of the main bullet points of the improvements and changes that are new in Bootstrap 4. Now, before I go over any of them, if you go to the Bootstrap website, if you want a real official list, a document that will show you every single change, you can click on Documentation, Migration, and this document is all about moving from Bootstrap 3 to 4. And it's broken down into every single release. There's a lot of them. And even by component, you can see, for example, if you're familiar with Bootstrap 3 and you used to know how to, make a nav bar, and you want to know how to do it now, this gives you a play-by-play of everything that has changed. But that's not the point of this video. What I want to talk about are just the overall changes. So one of the biggest changes is that Bootstrap 4 has Flexbox enabled by default. Now, if you don't know what Flexbox is, don't worry about it. We're going to talk about it and learn it through Bootstrap later in this course. But it's a great, very easy way of laying out content, of moving things around on the page within a box, essentially. And it's a really nice way of working. Bootstrap 3 did not have it enabled by default. Bootstrap 4 does, and it makes it a lot easier to customize things. In addition, Bootstrap 4 refactored most of the existing components. So a lot of if you're coming from Bootstrap 3 and you know the class names to make a nav bar, some things may have changed. Things certainly look different, so aesthetically things have changed, but also some of the class names have changed, the markup that you use has changed. Even if the component is still there, it might be different, so we'll address it as we go. A big change is that there are 3 components that no longer exist in Bootstrap 4. Panels, thumbnails, and wells are all gone. However, the functionality that they represented is all encompassed in a single component that's been added in called the card. So we have an entire section on cards. They're a very versatile, useful component for displaying information, basically replacing these 3 things. Next, a structural change behind the scenes. Bootstrap 4 uses rems, which is a unit, if you're not familiar with it, root ems. It's kind of confusing. Ems doesn't actually stand for anything. It has to do with the width of the letter M. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Bootstrap 3 is written with pixels, so these values are hard-coded in. Bootstrap 4 is all relative font sizes, so everything is based off of the font size of the root element. So just as an example, if we look at the Bootstrap documentation, which is built with Bootstrap 4, and if we go to the root element, this HTML, and I change the font size, you'll see, let's say I go to, 40 pixels as the root size, everything scales. And if I change it down to 10 pixels, everything shrinks down. And if we look at one of these elements, for example, this one right here, this H1, we can see its font size is 3 rems. So it's 3 times whatever the font size is set to on the root. So if that makes no sense to you, if you're not familiar with rems, don't worry about it. But it's just a nice change where all font sizes are relative now to the root of the document. We talk about this in the typography section, but if we were working with Bootstrap 3 still and we tried to change the root font size, nothing would really change because everything is hard-coded with pixels. This would always be set to 70 pixels or 40 pixels or something. Next up, there's a new grid size / tier. So within Bootstrap, there are different screen sizes, different breakpoints that everything sort of hinges around. And there's been a new extra small size added in for basically portrait mode on your phone. Now, if you know Bootstrap 3, there was an extra small font size in Bootstrap 3, but now the extra small has been shifted down further, and there's now extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. Next, Bootstrap used to be built on less. This is a more behind the scenes change. Now it is written in Sass. So if you want to change things, which we will be doing later on, theming Bootstrap, updating colors, removing components, customizing it, we'll be working with Sass. Also, the icon font, glyph icons, it's gone, no longer there, but there are many free alternatives to get icons, so it's not a huge loss. And in Bootstrap 4, I have already mentioned these utility classes. None of them existed. Well, most of them didn't exist in Bootstrap 3. There are, I don't know, dozens. That might be an exaggeration. Like 20? I guess that's not really dozens. 20 new utility classes that are really awesome, very useful, that come in Bootstrap 4. So those didn't exist at all. So the biggest changes, really, Flexbox is enabled, which we'll spend a lot of time on. Whether you know Flexbox or not, we'll be able to sort of teach it as we go. Components that have been removed, panels, thumbnails, and wells. New component, cards. There's a new grid size, a new tier for different breakpoints, and then lots of new utility classes. Okay, so those are the main differences from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4.